oh my God, QE has already been happening. Quantitative easing or money printing, QE from the Federal Reserve or from the US Treasury has already been happening. Our markets set to rocket. People are saying, what are you talking about, Pablo? No, we're still in QT mode. The Federal Reserve is still doing QT. And in fact, Jerome Powell just said he's going to do QT for another few weeks, or even a few months. What are you talking about? Are you crazy? Of course, I'm not crazy. I'm telling you, QE, stealth QE, like under the desk, under the covers QE has already started. It started because of a special situation between Trump and the Democrats, right? It's a very special move they're doing with it in the Treasury, and it's going to be something like over $800 billion, like almost $1 trillion is going to hit the markets in the next 2 to 3, 4 months. I'll explain to you guys why that is happening. It's what we call stealth QE. Can it launch a altcoin season? Let me show you on the charts what happened the last 2 times when something like that happened. And yes, it is possible. I'll just show you guys on the charts. First, let's have a look at the weekly close, because right now it's just Monday in Australasian time zone. So basically, let's have a look at Bitcoin. Basically, we're still in this consolidation zone going sideways, and as I've been saying, keeps on bouncing off. Is this a log chart? Keeps on bouncing off. Let's put it on log. This green line, which is basically the we're linking these 2 highs, right? And this could be a double head. If we have to be technical, it could be a shoulder, head, double head, shoulder, and then go down. That could still happen. Remember how myself and others were warning that could hit the 70s, like 80K, 75K. That still could happen, right? And technically, it still could happen. I'm more leaning towards it to bounce up because I think QE, as I just said, quantitative easing or money printing is just happening with the federal government right now. But I can't be 100%. I have to tell you the possibility is still there. But I do tell you which scenario I lean towards. That means 60-40, 70-30. I think it's going to be quantitative easing and we get some sort of positive upward movement. Okay, Ethereum, obviously, we're getting close to the close as well in a few hours. And obviously doesn't quite look good because remember we had this is the massive trend line, right? Massive trend line. We closed below it. And once again, we're about to close below that. And this is the long wick to the top. For 2 weeks now, we can't close above this key 2740s area, right? So again, Ethereum looking weak, but I'm going to talk about this QE situation and how it's going to help for cryptos to pump. And guys, by now that from what you know of me, I'm not a perma bull. I'm definitely not one of those perma bulls that kept on calling for Bitcoin to go to 20K, last bull run. And I'm only optimistic when things are looking good. So I'll explain to you guys why I think QE, well, not why I think, but it is already actually happening. Money printing QE is already happening in 30 seconds. For now, let me just ask you, which crypto exchange does Pablo use? Well, Pablo uses this one, which is Non-KYC, and I made a deal with them, Bitunix, so you can win a Tesla Model 3, Rolex, or Vision Pro just by trading, right? These are the terms and conditions. And what does that mean, KYC? Non-KYC, it just means you don't have to show your ID. That means even the exchange don't know who you are. Americans can use it. That means the IRS can't see you, the tax office can't see you, the CIA, FBI, nobody can see you. It's full privacy. So I've made a deal with them. If you are watching this video in YouTube right now, the link is in the description below, only on the Pablo link. But if you're watching this on any other platform, just go to my page. Just go to the Pablo page, bio page, and then click on the stand link. And the first thing that pops up is this Pablo deal. Remember, all these great prizes only on the Pablo deal. QE is basically defined as when the Federal Reserve is buying bonds from the market. Right now, they're doing the opposite. They're doing QT, which they're selling bonds. When they're buying bonds, they basically take bonds, pieces of paper, worth nothing, like pieces of paper from the banks, and they give billions to the banks. So the banks have the liquidity. That's the liquidity injection into the economy, into the financial system, and the stock market booms. When the stock market goes up, Bitcoin tends to follow it up, or they roughly go up at the same time. Now, what is happening right now is not the Federal Reserve doing QE, they're still doing QT of $55 billion per month. But the federal government, the US Treasury, has already started doing QE. The reason why is this. You know how the federal US Treasury is allowed to borrow money from the market? And in fact, they borrow a lot of money every year, something like $1.8 trillion just last year. The US Treasury General Account, that's how much money the United States Treasury has got. So when they sell bonds, right, and the Federal Reserve, this was during COVID, so they sold a lot of bonds to borrow money, and the Federal Reserve gave them printed money and bought their bonds, so suddenly they have a lot of money. It's actually $1.77 trillion. And then once they started spending that, they stopped borrowing and they spent that into the economy. And what happens, right? Here again, they have almost $950 billion and they spend that, right? Here's them borrowing that money and then they spend their money. Here's them borrowing that money and they spend their money, right? It's kind of like, think of it as the US government's bank account. That's actually exactly what it is. They borrow the money and then they spend their money, right? They borrow like $1.8 trillion, money that they don't have, and they spend it. They give it to, the top items are US military spending and, entitlements, endowments, veterans, repaying back the interest on all that debt. So anyways, however they spend it, that money finds its way back into the economy, back into the financial system, and people spend that, or people invest that in stocks, or they buy some Bitcoin with it, and markets go up. They almost always do. It's a huge cash injection into the economy. So why is Trump doing that? Well, Trump doesn't have a choice, because do you remember something called the debt ceiling? Well, the debt ceiling, what happened during Biden's time is that right now, as of this minute, about 5 days ago, that debt ceiling is binding now. It holds. You cannot lift it anymore unless they come to agreement. It just cannot be lifted. If it cannot be lifted and it's already being hit, 36 trillion, then that means Trump and his U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, his treasurer, called Scott Bessent, cannot issue any more bonds, cannot sell any more bonds. Bonds, treasury bonds, are essentially IOUs. It's basically a piece of paper saying, I owe you $1 billion. I give you this piece of paper. You, whether you're a bank or insurance company, you're China or Japan, give me $1 billion. I'm borrowing $1 billion from you, and I'm giving you a piece of IOU called US Treasury bonds. They can't do that anymore. They cannot do that anymore. The reason why they can't do that anymore is because Biden said during his term, he set a 2-year limit, and he can borrow as much as he can during those 2 years. And that's why US debt ballooned from like 28 trillion to 36 trillion during Biden's 4 years. But now Trump can't borrow anymore because that time limit has been hit unless he comes to a deal. And because, Trump and Elon Musk doing his whole Doge thing, cutting lots of costs in the US government, has basically pissed off a lot of people. So a lot of those Democrats are not working with them. So that debt limit is not getting lifted. I know if it sounds confusing to you, I'll show you on a chart. They borrow that money, then they spend that money. Now they've borrowed that money, and I just told you guys they cannot borrow anymore. They legally cannot borrow anymore unless they get the Democrats to agree with them. Yeah, obviously the Democrats really hate Trump and Elon for doing that whole Doge thing right now, which is Department of Government Efficiency, which means a lot of these U.S. government departments have been cut, and they're about to cut taxes. So anyways, Democrats don't like that. They're not happy about it. So I don't think they're going to make a deal anytime soon. That means Trump is stuck with this spending limit and he has to draw down on it. So when he has to draw down on it, then that means we're going to go through another instance of this chart coming down. So now let's have a look at what happens. What happens when this chart comes down? How does that impact Bitcoin and the stock market? First of all, let's have a look at stocks, right? This is the SP 500. We can see when this number started coming down between July 2020 to December 2021, stock market basically just went right up. In fact, when this bottom and started coming up, that's when the stock market topped and went to bear market, right? So now, the second time is when the SP 500, when this number came down, the US government bank account started spend all their money. That's when, see, the red line is the spider or the SP 500 ETF, and it basically did a double bottom here. So this first bottom was around 365 on the SPY, on the SPY, and here was 359, 360. That's called 358.59. Double bottom, and the bear market bottomed. That was created the bear market bottom, and it bounced. And by the time U.S. government stopped spending in June 2023, the market was at 434. So it was out of the bear market. Now, once again, we have this situation where they're going to start spending again. It has to go down because they can't borrow anymore. And that's kind of like a kind of QE, because this was $1.7 trillion. This time was $940 billion, and now it's $830 billion. So that's still a lot of money. So this SP 500 or Spider ETF could still come down a little bit, but in general, I'm expecting it to trend up within the next 3 or 4 months, blow off top perhaps. Now let's have a look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, we're using the orange line just so we understand that it is Bitcoin we're looking at. And Bitcoin's basically, okay, this is July 2020. US government starts spending its money, so its bank account starts coming down, and we get to around, say, May 2021, which is 10 months later, and we see Bitcoin just takes off, and it does a topping process. And of course, this crash happened from 64K down to 28K, and that was Bitcoin. I think it was something like China bans Bitcoin mining or something. And then US government keeps on spending, and it rescues Bitcoin from 28K and bounces all the way up to 69K, and that's when the market tops. And look at this. When the US government stops spending and starts collecting money again, taking in money again from the economy, this thing, Bitcoin, tops at 69K, kind of almost at the same time. So did the stock market top around November, December 2021, and it went to a bear market. And then next time, US government started spending again. Almost immediately, Bitcoin starts to form a bottom. This was around 19K. Yes, I understand the eventual bottom came with this final capitulation drop to 15K, 16K here. But that drop was, I think, was the Luna crash or some crash that took it down the final stretch. It was around, but it basically spent this whole time between 19K to 15K in that narrow 4K range. And then the US government kept on spending. And by the time they finished spending, Bitcoin had already gotten up to 30.5K. So it doubled from the bottom. So these are all very, very bullish and positive periods. So right now, we know Trump can't borrow anymore. He can't take in any more money. He can't do that because there's a debt limit, because the Democrats really dislike him and Elon right now. So that blue line, unless a miracle happens, has to go down. And we saw each time when this blue line goes down, stock market pumps and Bitcoin pumps. Blue line goes down, stock market pumps, Bitcoin pumps. It's not as simple as, oh, Bitcoin should go straight up. We can still have like a dip maybe down to 90K, 89K, 88K, scare the hell out of everyone, and then go up or something. It's not going to be easy straight up. It's not, that type of situation. But in general, as you can see, this is kind of like stealth, what I call stealth QE, and it's actually a very sneaky thing the government is doing to support the market, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And in general, it's very positive on the market. So yeah, I would, if you combine this with my last episode, which I spoke about when that alt season would come, gives us a good basis of thinking where the market could be. We know Ethereum isn't looking great. We know Ethereum's stuck under its long-term, supporting a trend line. That's why I cannot say, oh, we're definitely going to get an altcoin season. We're definitely going to get Bitcoin with another leg up. We're definitely going to get another blow off top with the stock market. But I would say I lean towards another leg up. As I said, that means 60-40 chance or 70-30 chance or even 80-20% chance, right? You can never be 100%, but I do say I am leaning towards another leg up. We could get a pullback, probably not a huge pullback, but some sort of small pullback. I've spoken about this in my last few videos, and then we go up. Another leg up because of this situation, and also because the Fed could be forced into stopping QT, into stopping quantitative tightening. That's covered in my previous video, one of these longer 10-15 minute videos as well. Okay, thank you guys for tuning in with me. I'll catch you guys next episode.